And we're live. If it's Monday, it's Beyond Babbitt. And this is your host, Brian Anthony. We have somebody joining us there. Hello, hello, hello. Glad you can make it. I'm going to talk about today what happens when the money fails. Pretty sure, let me make sure the volume is right. I'm pretty sure that all the saber rattling we're getting here is um, a lot of it have to do with the financial reset that's coming. Like I've said on plenty of occasions, numerous other times, the lifespan of a fiat currency, 42 years. So since 1971, that was the last time that we retooled ours, the dollar, the U.S. dollar. We're well overdue. We've had 3 rounds of QE. So there's a list out, a couple of lists floating within the past several years. Anywhere between 23 and 40 countries have dumped the US dollar. Well, we can add to that list Iran as of recent and Turkey, who's supposed to be our ally. But if you watch this channel, you know that I've already said that Turkey's going over to the B side. Turkey's no longer going to be, even though it's NATO, it's trying to purchase some defense weapons from Russia. We've been kicked off the Incirlik Air Base and a lot of other things going on. So, yeah, they're going over to the opposition side. And I'm sure Germany is soon to follow. So, anywhere between 23 and 40 countries have dumped the dollar. 23 and 40 countries. That's a lot of countries. So, are you prepared? It's from my study of history, usually the stock market crashes the third quarter, late in the third quarter, or in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth quarter. This is the second quarter that we're in now. So a lot of people are, they're still borrowing to buy stocks or cryptocurrencies, or borrowing interest. That's how the Great Depression happened. Things like that. So what happens when the money fails? And the reason I'm going live is because this could take. I'm not gonna. I'm not even gonna lie to you and say it's gonna be a short one. Because this one here, you need to be prepared. You need to be your own central bank. You have to have borderable skills and borderable items, just in case the paper currency becomes no good. This wouldn't be the first time in history that that's happened. Okay. So let's start with Abraham. Abraham is known as the father of the faith, of the Christian faith, of the Jewish faith, Judaism, and also of the Islamic faith, the monotheistic quote unquote religions. Since the Torah came first, we'll read from the Bible, King James Version, Authorized Version, because that's the only one that has that you can check it. It's an actual translation and not a transliteration. And I'm just going to read it. I'm going to try to go through it really fast here. It's Genesis chapter 47. and uh, and then we'll get started. We'll backtrack after that. So just bear with me. This should be a good one. Okay, Genesis chapter 47. I'm going to start at verse 1. Let's get it. Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh and said, My father and my brethren and their flocks and their herds and all that they have are come out of the land of Canaan, and behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took some of his brethren, even 5 men, and presented them unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto his brethren, What is your occupation? And they said unto Pharaoh, Thy servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. They said moreover unto Pharaoh, For to sojourn in the land are we come, for thy servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is sore in the land of Canaan. Now therefore we pray thee, let the servants dwell in the land of Goshen. Okay, so we're talking about when the money fails. You would notice the first thing that happens is the famine is sore. Famine is like the crops fail. It's a lack of food. Even if you don't eat vegetables, if you're just a straight carnivore, well, the meat you eat, they eat the vegetables. So it's a cycle. So notice that's the first thing that it says that when the money fails, it said that the famine was sore. Notice with the strange weather what's happening with the farmers and the food and where we get our food from now and the Terminator seeds and think about this stuff. Think about it. Okay. And it said, okay, let me go back. Famine is sore in the land of Canaan. Now therefore we pray thee, let thy servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spake unto Joseph, saying, Thy father and thy brethren are come unto thee. The land of Egypt is before thee. In the best of the land make thy father and brethren to dwell. In the land of Goshen let them dwell. And if thou knowest any men of activity among them, then make them rulers over my cattle. Verse 7. And Joseph brought in Jacob his father and set him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Jacob, How old art thou? And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have the days of my years of my life been, and have not attained unto the days of the years of the life of my fathers, and the days of their pilgrimage. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh, and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph placed his father and his brethren, and gave them the possession of the land of Egypt, and in the best of the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh he commanded. And Joseph nourished his father and his brethren, and all his father's household with bread according to their families. And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all that the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in the presence, for the money faileth? Why should we die in thy presence, for the money faileth? And Joseph said, Give your cattle me. Give your cattle, and I will give you, and I will give you for your cattle if money fail. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks, and for the cattle of the herds. Why would they, you know, give everything up for food? So let's see. I would say that it could be like in India, to where they actually worship the cattle and they wouldn't eat the cattle, or it could be, I mean, probably they only drank the milk and made dairy products and stuff like that. Or it could be, and that's also, there's something there because remember when they came out of Egypt. Now, see, this is when they're first going into Egypt. Joseph was the first one there, and when Jacob or Israel came, they were like 70 when they came. When they left, they were like 2 million. So when they left, with Moses and Aaron, when Moses went up to the mountain and they saw they made a golden calf and worshipped it. Um, Satan or is known as in the occult world as a winged bull or winged goat, kind of like the Baphomet. So that's that. It could be that either they worship the cattle, or that the cattle were like viewed as tools to plow the land and stuff like that. Or the third option would be that the cattle also were starving and were so thin and so skinny. I mean, you'd eat all of them, and then when the famine was over, you'd have nothing to start over with. Uh, so that's what they did. They basically sold them. But that's not all. Let's keep going. Okay. And when the money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth. And Joseph said, give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle, if money fail. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks, and for the cattle, and of the herds, and of the asses, and he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. When that year was ended, they came unto him the second year, and said unto him, we will not hide it from my lord how that our money is spent. My lord also hath our herds of cattle. There is not aught left in the sight of my Lord but our bodies and our lands. Now, I forgot to tell you that Joseph was already prepared because Joseph was a prophet. He had the dream that there was going to be 7 good years, fat years, and then 7 lean years. So he was the second in command at Egypt, and he had the Pharaoh to store up. Then the 7 fat years, and then the 7 lean years, they were prepared, so they had food. And that's why everybody's coming to Egypt. Okay, and so I'm going to read verse 18. Again, this is Genesis chapter 47. We're talking about when the money fails, because we're on the cusp of that now in this country, not only in this country, in the entire world, because it's a global economy, and the U.S. dollar is or was the world reserve currency. So, Genesis chapter 47, verse 18, I'll read it again. We're almost done. We're halfway through with the chapter here. When that year was ended, they came unto him the second year, and said unto him, we will not hide it from my lord, how that our money is spent. My lord also hath our herds of cattle. That is aught left in the sight of my lord, but our bodies and our lands. Wherefore shall we die before thine eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh, and give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. And Joseph bought all the land of the Egypt for Pharaoh, for the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them. So the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he removed them to cities from one end of the borders of Egypt, even to the other end thereof. Pause right there. So they didn't have enough to make it. The famine was 7 years. So some people had enough for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, but they couldn't get through that first year. Had to sell all the cattle. They couldn't get through that second year. They had to sell themselves into slavery, into bondage, and their lands. And basically, he rented their lands back to them and gave them seed to plant on the land. So it's only that goes to show you, to show me, that it's only so much you could prepare for. So unless you're a person of great substance, of great wealth, you may not have enough for a year or two or three with everything failing. Something to think about. Back to the story. Genesis chapter 47, verse 21. And as for the people, he removed them to cities from one end of the borders of Egypt, even to the other end thereof. Only the land of the priests bought he not, for the priests had a portion assigned them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion with Pharaoh, gave them. Wherefore they sold not their lands. Then Joseph said unto the people, Behold, I have bought you this day and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is a seed for you, and ye shall sow the land, and it shall come to pass in the increase that ye shall give the fifth part unto Pharaoh. Fifth part is 20%, and four parts shall be your own, for the seed of the field, and for your food, and for them of your households, and for food of the little ones. And they said, Thou hast saved our lives. See, they were grateful. you know, we enslaved, but we had to sell everything to you, but you keeping us alive. They were grateful. Think about it. Think about the FEMA camps. Okay. What does it say? Pharaoh, for four parts shall be your own, for the seed of the field, and for your food, and for them of your households, and for the food of your little ones. And they said, Thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt unto this day that Pharaoh should have the fifth part, except the land of the priest only, which became not Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the whole age of Jacob was 147 years. And the time drew nigh that Israel must die. And he called his son Joseph and said unto him, If now I have found grace in thy sight, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me. Bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt, but I will lie with my fathers, and thou shalt carry me out of Egypt, and bury me in the burying place. Behold, the burying place. And he said, I will do this, as thou hast said. And he said, Swear unto me. And he sware unto him. And Israel bowed himself upon the bed's head. Okay. So again, we're talking about when the money fails. Will you have to sell yourself into slavery? It's possible. It's possible. It's very possible. And you never know what you'll do when you're hungry. When you got things going for you. It's either somebody taking care of you, providing for you, or you got a job, or whoever's putting food on the table and cooking it. You eating every day. But it'd be a lot different if everything stopped. You know, if the lights went out, who would you depend on? So now it's funny. In Hebrew, the word for silver is the same word for money. There have been depressions in the States before the Great Depression, booms and busts, the business cycle, stock market goes up and down, currencies, fiat currencies, everything. I mean, that's how things are. Like the tidal wave, like the wave comes in and goes back. It's just how things work. So there's no don't be surprised because I'm calling that the stock market is going to fall this year, and that's with just using two data points. One is the business cycle every 7 to 10 years. This is the 10th year, and I know it's usually in the third or fourth quarter, so I'm picking third quarter, end of the third quarter. Now, until then, let's get it. Let's get it. Keep your nose to the grind, your feet to the fire. Let's get it. You see what I'm saying? Because it's going to be a wealth transfer. The wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous, laid up for the just. It's been that before. And during this reset, if you're positioned right, you'll prosper. Now, we live, man. People keep coming in and going out. I haven't seen any comments yet, but thank y'all for joining in. So we talked about Abram and who he was. Historic figure. His bloodline is what started the quote unquote Jews. Abram wasn't a Jew. Abram was a Chaldean for the land of Ur. Some say Iraq. Mm-hmm. In that area over there, right? Plain of Shinar. Mm-hmm. A Chaldean, a Syrian. He's called all of these things. You know, he wasn't the first one that God revealed himself to, but after the flood, he revealed him to himself again and gave him the rundown. Now, we just talked about uh, Genesis 47, and Abram was dead and gone. He had been Abram to Abraham and was dead and gone by then. That we had already uh, went to another point. But let's um let's look at Father Abraham because we too much because this is beyond Babbitt, right? So beyond Babbitt is beyond business. So we see the cup half full, not half empty. And I know the Beyond Babbitt listeners are some of the most intelligent. You have to be to keep up. I mean, you have to be because I don't go. I don't have to. I don't pull out the articles and things that I tell you about. I don't pull all of them and put them in a video or the videos that I watch. I don't include them always. I want you to do some research as well. It's how you stay sharp. Iron sharpens iron. So, but what's been instilled, wrongly so, is like money is bad, wealth is bad, God wants you to be poor, poor is holy. Okay, no, not necessarily. So let's see here. Let's go back to Genesis 11. Let's see what we're looking at here. Because this guy, like I said, this was the man here, man. I'm sorry, Genesis 13. Genesis 13:2. Now, Abram, when he left the area, he left with his dad. When his brothers, where one of his brothers died, he left with his other brother and his nephew, Lot. Now, at that time, they didn't have nothing. His dad had a little something, but they weren't wealthy. But by the time, over a period of time, God was blessing him. So let's see what it says about him here. Genesis 13:2. Actually, let me start at verse 1. Genesis 13:1. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. And he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai. Okay. Abram, this is 13:2, was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. The flocks and the herds, the silver and the gold. So you make money with that, right? What do we call rich now? Very rich now. You got to have a lot of paper. A lot of paper. What can you do with the paper? There's no intrinsic value with the paper. It's fiat. Okay. So if Abram is the beginning of the bloodline, the spiritual bloodline and the natural bloodline, and he was very rich. I don't think it's bad to be rich. We have to have an abundance mindset. Both Nikola Tesla and Albert Einstein figured out to know about the universe, to know about the body, you have to know about electricity and vibrations. And your energy can attract or repel. So, and the mind is a strong, very strong thing. So let's not drag on with this. Okay, Solomon. See, one of the reasons that they point out this, and then this is pointed out in churches, is, it could be a hindrance. If you think that something is bad, you won't go after it. If you think that, if I make $1 million, $1 billion, or $1 trillion, I'm a bad person. No, not necessarily. Money is just another tool. Now, the love of money is the root of all evil. And we're talking about when the money faileth. So, the battle, here's the secret, the battle has always been between paper and credit and hard money, silver and gold. That's always been the battle. Who's controlling the sides now? It's still chess, not checkers. Okay, let's go to Proverbs chapter 23. And verse 4. This is what Solomon said, who some say was the richest king that ever lived, and maybe even the wisest man or wisest king that ever lived. Proverbs 23:4. Labor not to be rich. Cease from thine own wisdom. Mm. So let me read from verse 1. It says, when thou sittest to eat with a ruler, consider diligently what is before thee, and put a knife to thy throat, if thou be a man given to appetite. Be not desirous of his dainties, for they are deceitful meat. Labor not to be rich. Cease from thine own wisdom. Will thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away as an eagle toward heaven. Eat thou not the bread of him that hath an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meats. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. So what that is saying is, what I figured it out is laboring to be rich is impossible. That's why it says labor not to be rich, because labor, when you work by the hour. You're only guaranteed so many hours of life. So you're trading dollars for hours. Or the only other way is commission or leverage. You need to make money even while you sleep. And then if you're making money while you sleep, you're not laboring, you're not working. So that's how you get rich. You can't labor to get rich. You can't work yourself to death. I work 100,000 hours a week, whatever the job is. You can only do so much. Instead of you working for the money has to work for you. So that's not saying there that, oh, don't worry about getting rich if it happens, like dice. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. Sometimes you make your own luck, because we're going to have some decisions to make here shortly. Some of us are going to have to leave this country. I can see the disaster happening. I can see a lot of people from third world or lower rate countries trying to stow away or trying to get away and come to America on boats. Come on, this way, this way. I can see those who are here seeing the destruction of it, going the other way, getting on boats. Come on, this way, this way. Everybody's scattering and scrambling, confused, not knowing where to go. But it's going to be similar situations wherever you are. Let's continue. So let's go back to, and this is how I know what I just said is right. Okay? That it's talking about don't labor to get rich. Because the covenant that God made with man, this is one of the promises that he said. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 8. Come on, come on. Chapter 8 and verse 18. And it says this, but thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he sware unto thy fathers, as it is this day. So that was part of the blessings, part of it is if you follow everything that he told you, the covenant, if you do all this, you're going to be blessed. If you don't do it, you're going to be cursed. That was a part of the blessing. Not saying he going to just drop it out of heaven. He said he give you the power to get wealth. He give you the power to get it. You see what I'm saying? It's not necessary you just sitting in a hammock with your feet kicked up. And bloop, there you go. Your mansion and everything drop on the side of you. No, he gives you the power to get it. There's a method to the madness, a know-how, and then something you have to do. You see what I'm saying? Something you have to do. But you'll have favor, and that's also in their favor. Sounds like military jets. It's funny, I saw an article this morning and it was saying Russia guarantees there will not, that the strike from Trump in Syria will not, they guarantee that it will not set off a nuclear war. But at the same time, I saw another article where they're sending another strike group. Russia's sending more ships out there. So this could be the calm before the storm. And I personally, I believe it's about the money failing. It's all about resources, survival, the future. You know, these people playing 25, 50, 100, 200 years ahead. Well, we only playing 2, 3 days, 2, 3 months ahead, maybe 2, 3 years at the most. Okay. And now let's look at integrity when the money fails. Because a lot of people will, some people will still be having it, and they'll make you an offer you can't refuse. So let's go back to Genesis 14. Mm, Genesis 14. So this is where there were bandits. Nations were going to war, and Lot, Abram's place at that time, I believe he was Abraham, or he was about to become Abraham. His place was raided, and remember his nephew Lot was with him, and Lot had a lot of substance, but and they took Lot. They took him all hostage, took all the stuff, and I said Abraham had over 300 men trained in his own house. His servants, he had like his own private army, and they went to go get him with 300 men. So let's look at that right quick. I'm trying to give you the. So I'm going to start right here at verse 9. Genesis 14:9, and we're going to read through that. With, with Shadolomir, the king of Elam, and with Tidal, the king of nations, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings with 5. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there. And they that remained fled to the mountains. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and their victuals, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner. And these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him, in the valley of Sheva, which is the king's dale. And Melchizedek of Salem brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And he blessed be the most, and I'm sorry, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods to thyself. In other words, they were saying, Abram, you could take the booty. Wait a minute, man, this thing froze up. Okay. So it was saying, Abram, you can take the booty. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram rich. Only save that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Ashgal, and Mamre, let them take their portion. So, in other words, Jack, he was saying that, no, I don't want you to say, what I'm saying, because you can go around saying reputation, your name, your dignity. This king of his, oh, I made Abram rich. See, remember, we had already read that Abram was already rich. He had 318 servants, 313, however many, and when got these people back, so he was already had that. And so the king, say, just give me the men in here, you can get the money, the booty, right? The spoils of war. He was like, nah, I don't need that. Just, pay me what you owe me, what the men done ate, and we good. Settle it up, just like that. I hope this thing ain't froze up, man. My picture has not moved. Uh-oh. Low battery. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going, baby. Um, we're going to hit this last point right quick. And this is Genesis 23. This is what the Bible tells us about credit. I didn't even go into that. Credit is called usury in the Bible, and it tells you not to charge a brother that interest and all that. And we're going to see how the father of the faith took care of his business. Genesis 23:16. His wife had just died. And you know what? So Sarah had just died, and then he need to bury her. So I'm just going to try to go fast and skip to that. Genesis 23 started verse 3. And Abram stood up from stood up from before his dead, and spake unto the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a buying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the children of Heth answered Abraham now, saying unto him, Hear us, my Lord, thou art a mighty prince among us. In the choice of our sepulchres bury the dead. None of us shall withhold from thee his sepulchre, but that thou mayest bury thy dead. And Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, even to the children of Heth. And he communed with them, saying, If it be your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and entreat for me unto Ephraim the son of Zohar, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he hath, which is in the end of his field, for as much money as it is worth, he shall give it me for a possession of a burying place amongst you. And Ephraim dwelt among the children of Heth, and Ephraim the Hittite answered Abram in the audience of the children of Heth, even of all that went in at the gate of his city, saying, Nay, my Lord, hear me. The field I give thee, and the cave that is therein I give it thee. In the presence of the sons of my people I it thee. Bury thy dead. And Abram bowed down himself before the people of the land. And he spake unto Ephraim in the audience of the people of the land, saying, But if thou would give it, I pay thee, hear me, I will give thee money for the field. Take it of me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephraim answered Abraham, saying unto him, My Lord, hearken unto me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that betwixt me and thee? Bury therefore thy dead. And Abraham hearkened unto Ephraim, and Abraham weighed to Ephraim the silver, which he had named in the audience of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, current money with the merchant, and the field of Ephraim, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, in the field of the cave, which was therein, and all the trees that were in the field, that were all in the borders round about, were made sure unto Abram for possession in the presence of the children of Heth, before all that went in the gate of his city. And after this, Abram buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, the same as Hebron, the land of Canaan. And the field and the cave that is therein were made sure unto Abraham for a possession of a burying place for the sons of Heth. All right, he paid for it. Cash money, no credit. Current money is what it says. That's an example for us. All right, I don't want to make this too long, man. But just keep watching the Ally side, the B side, A side, and the B side, because it's all about the dollar. It's going to be reset. You can be set up to win or you can lose. I want everybody to win. All right. Beyond Babbitt, over and out.